All right, I've got a lot of information to cover, so let's go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for taking the time to join us this morning for a workshop on funding your home improvement projects. Of course, it's never a Zoom webinar unless I have some kind of technical difficulty. So there we go. I'm Doria Estrella, an analyst with the Climate Action and Resiliency Division, and I'll be your presenter today. I've been with the county since 2010, all of that time with energy and sustainability. And we recently merged with the Climate Action and Resiliency Division. And I currently manage the education and outreach programs along with some other things here. Joining me today is Chris Condon, also an analyst with the division and our go-to person for everything building science related. She'll be our moderator, keeping me and us on track with timing and monitoring the chat. Speaking of the chat, if you have questions throughout the presentation, please enter them into the window to be addressed at the end of the workshop. Following the workshop, a link to the recording will be sent out to all participants. It usually takes us a couple days to, we have to rewatch it, kind of clean it up, edit it, cut out the beginning, prepare the slides. So if you haven't received it within 2 days, check your junk or your spam folders. Sometimes we end up there. If you still don't have it, contact our office and our contact information will be on the last slide and we can send it out to you directly. Obviously you won't have the slide, but you can write it down when we get to the end. So not many people realize that the county has a climate division, and if they do, they don't realize the number of services that we offer the community. As the Energy and Sustainability Division was created in 2006 to address internal county energy use in order to mitigate climate change through greenhouse gas reduction. And in 2009, our first community-facing program, the Sonoma County Energy Independence Program, was introduced. It's also known as SCIPE, funny little acronym, but it's the first and longest running residential PACE program, which stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy. It also services commercial or multifamily agricultural properties also. The program allows property owners to finance energy and water saving improvements as a tool in reducing greenhouse gases. And in 2020, it was expanded to include things like wildfire safety and seismic strengthening. We'll go into a little more detail about that later when we talk about financing. Since that time, we've added a number of resources and services. So our primary focus is buildings and behaviors. We assist customers through a variety of services. We work with cities, towns, special districts, businesses, and residents to increase energy efficiency in their buildings through audits, energy retrofit projects, and connecting people with rebates and financing. Our consultation services provide no-cost, impartial information to educate community members so they can make informed decisions related to building improvements, and offer project planning services to help identify resources such as incentives, rebates, and financing to help get the projects done. We also host numerous workshops such as this one and trainings for the community and workforce development. So today is the launch of our winter workshop series. We run this series about 4 times a year with a variety of topics. So today we have, as you know, funding your improvements. Next week, we have a really great one on solar and storage and electrification. It really focuses on going solar, adding battery storage, how that works for load calculations. I know it's a big thing everyone's thinking about now if you're considering solar, hearing about NEM 3. So we're going to talk about that. And then we have a couple of really great, we'll have Russ King joining us to do February 1st and 8th on heat pumps for residential cooling, and next on that on water heating. So those are 2 new workshops. If you attended the last series, the residential heating and cooling, this is more of a part 2, and we're going to talk more about ducted systems versus ductless systems to take a little bit deeper dive, but still have a little of it. If you missed it, there's still going to be that entry level information. So it's definitely useful for a wide range of audiences. And I'm so excited to add, for the first time since 2020, we have in-person events on the schedule. And these are going to be saving energy at home. We have one in English, one in Spanish coming up in February. Maybe you've attended some. So prior to COVID, we did all of our workshops in person. We would, they were at we had some here at our offices. We have some meeting space. We did them at libraries around the county, and we're excited to be able to offer these back to the community again. So we have contractors joining us to do the presentations. We'll talk about DIY or do-it-yourself toolkits, that kind of thing. So excited to see those back on the schedule. To RSVP, you will have this in your slide. These links are hot. You'll be able to RSVP to them. The in-person, you don't require RSVP, but if you do RSVP, you will get an extra entry into a drawing for a free energy score, which is a value of $450. I'll talk a little bit about home energy scores in just a few more slides. Or you can contact our office and we can get you registered. So today we'll be focused on resources to get your project done. As you saw on the previous slide, there's additional workshops on the series and a variety of topics such as, the solar and batteries I mentioned, the heat pumps. So we take a deeper dive into each of those today. So I'm going to briefly, just to give our talk a little context on the rebates and the incentives and what they're available for, just a high level overview. So I won't be talking in detail about the technical specifications, and Chris is probably going to be sitting on her hands wanting to tell you everything because she's a wealth of information, but I will have to say, hold on. If you have questions about those in particular, join those other webinars, give our office a call, set up a consultation, and we'll go over consultations later on. Because this is just a high level overview for those kinds of things so we can get to the money part. So I think everyone can agree over the last few years, we have all had the opportunity to get really, really familiar with our homes. And while some of us gone back to work, many of us had to adjust to a new normal. We work at home, we take care of our children at home. We have a hybrid of both. Maybe we're working in the office, maybe we're staying at home a little bit. But we're spending a lot more time at our houses, and we've had time to think about making our spaces better, upgrading equipment, being more comfortable, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We could probably talk all day long about improvements that we want to make at home, and the list could be endless. Today, we're going to be focusing on energy efficiency and resiliency and the resources, because there are resources specific to getting those projects done. I'd like to take a moment to talk about a new publication that we developed, the Home Resilience Guide. I am so excited about this. Chris and I worked on this for almost a whole year. Technical writing, it's a comprehensive guide on improvements that homeowners can make for a more efficient, safe, comfortable, and resilient home. It's available in both digital and print. We're going to be sending out a copy of the digital with a link to the digital with the slides, so you'll have a chance to look at it. And it's also available in print in both English and Spanish. So digital also available in Spanish. Super excited, but it's the basis for a lot of the work that we do here and goes into detail about these improvements. And it's just, I just can't stop raving about it enough. Was a hard job to get done, and I hope you enjoy it. So first, starting off, thinking about making improvements. A lot of people, a great way to start is with assessing your home's energy use. So there's a couple ways to start with that. I'm going to briefly just talk about them. I mentioned the DIY toolkit. Maybe some of you have borrowed it over time. This is a partnership with our office, Sonoma Clean Power, the Sonoma County Water Agency, or Sonoma Water, and the public library to bring to you this do-it-yourself toolkit. And it's totally free to check out. All you need is a library card. It's filled with a lot of different tools that can help you measure energy use, water use, and we're adding some new tools in there for irrigation. And there's a lot of items that you get to keep. So there's weather stripping, there's some faucet aerators and light bulbs, LED light bulbs, number of things. So super exciting. It's available. You can borrow it up to 3 weeks, and available at all of the libraries. They have several out there. So if you haven't gotten one, I encourage you to go get that. So there's also a comprehensive guidebook included that'll tell you how to use everything in the kit, and information about reading your bill. I know I still refer back to that to look at that. It's a little maze sometimes. So a great way to learn more about your home. You can measure the energy use. There's some data loggers that can help you measure. You can plug anything electrical into them that'll tell you how much energy they use. So super useful. So maybe you want to learn more. I mentioned the home energy score and the free drawing for a free score. So this is introduced by the Department of Energy, and it's used to score your home's energy on a scale of 1 to 10. So think of it as a miles per gallon rating on your home. So a certified rater would come in, do a visual inspection of your systems, insulation, that type of thing. Chris recently, this last year, became a home energy score analyst. Previous to that, she has the big certification that I'm going to talk about next, but she is a home energy score rater also. But it'll give you all of the scores and the facts about your home in a nice little report that can help to create a project plan. And the really big one on getting your house done is a whole house energy audit. So this is where you'll see on this image includes duct testing, blower door testing, thermal camera testing, all of these different technical tests that will give a certified rater or a certified analyst the ability to model your home's energy use. So modeling by existing conditions and where you can stand to say if there's any issues, any problems, how much your home leaks, and can give you a really good picture. So I liken it to a physical. So you go to the doctor, you get a physical, you have all these tests done, you get back this report, you know if you need to make improvements here or there, or you know your cholesterol is. This is the same thing for a house. You're able to refer back to it, know what's going on at that moment in time. Think about your priorities. Is it health? Is it energy efficiency? Where you want to make improvements? It's a great comprehensive report to have. So these are all tools in assessing your home's energy use and figuring out a proper plan on making improvements and having them coordinated. So who doesn't want comfort and lower bills? Most homes today lose as much as half of their cooled and heated air because they have poor insulation, inefficient heating and cooling systems, leaky ducts and leaks in the attic, around doors and windows. In fact, if you added up little cracks and crevices, or your house likely has a hole the size of a hula hoop, just air going in and out. It's no wonder your feet are cold and your utility bills are high. So when we talk about incentives, you usually see the greatest incentives are where technologies are newer to spur adoption. Some of the buzzwords you hear these days are electrification and decarbonization. This basically means moving off natural gas and converting to electric at home. Electric equipment and appliances tend to be much more energy efficient than their gas counterparts. Heat pumps are widely considered to be the most energy efficient way to cool and heat your home and are a great option for both HVAC, so heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and water heating because they use electricity to move hot and cold air from one place to another rather than generate it. Heat pumps can deliver up to 10 to 15 more times as much energy as they use. So changing our changing our main energy sources to clean renewable energy and improving our buildings will not only help reduce greenhouse gases, but also make your home more energy efficient and safe for your family. There are many other improvements that we can make to help our energy use. I focused on these sets because there are ways, some good rebates available right now and some exciting developments to come in the future to help get this work done. So I mentioned previously, and this is going to lead into some of the rebates that we're going to talk about, decarbonization or electrification. So now it's time to go all electric, getting off of that natural gas. This is just an image about some of the things that can help you, the improvements that you make can help you make the move to going all electric. The website, theswitcheson.org, is a great resource to take even a deeper dive on what that really means and how to implement these things at your home. So we'll be talking about specifically about the Inflation Reduction Act. I know a lot of people, we get a lot of questions about it. There's a lot of buzz. It is a real game changer. And it's based about being, this highly efficient technology, getting off of natural gas, going to all electric. And so it's really making a move. So I encourage you, visit theswitcheson.org, talk to our offices and learn more about it. So let's move into the purpose of the webinar, resources to get your projects done. So the Inflation Reduction Act, this was signed into law back in August of last year, and it was specifically created to, address the climate crisis, building energy use, and it was designed to save households money, so helping them make that conversion, getting off of natural gas, upgrading to cleaner electricity, heating, cooling, transportation, and shifting away from fossil fuel. There's also provisions to create jobs, clean energy jobs. So clean energy manufacturing, people that are actually construction, doing the work to installing these measures and making major investments in that area. And it's also, all in the mind of an equity lens. So making sure that our underserved communities are also able to make these improvements also. So really exciting that this was signed into law. So what does that mean in terms of dollars? So home efficiency rebates, there's billions of dollars that was allocated towards that, and federally, and available until September 30th, 2031, or until those funds are exhausted. And the way that's going to be done, it's going to be filtered down federally to the state offices who will create programs that'll be implemented locally. There's going to be, so there's home efficiency rebates, there's home electrification rebates. Those are all still in the works of being developed. The talks are just now beginning with states on implementing those programs. The last meeting I was in last week, the expectation, they were thinking that maybe mid 2023, they were going to be available. It's looking now as these are, just like I mentioned, hitting the state and implemented down locally. End of 2023 is probably going to be the soonest that you see the actual rebate programs, and most likely into the beginning of 2024. So we're going to be watching this really closely. I personally, is part of my job in the committees that I sit on, as a participant in the workshops. We are starting a new climate action and resiliency newsletter. You will be entered into that. You'll have to opt into receiving it, but we'll have the latest information as it comes out, as that newsletter is released quarterly. And you can always contact our offices or attend the workshops that we have quarterly. And like I mentioned, also the contractor training, that information is that there's a lot of money allocated towards that too. So why is the Inflation Reduction Act, or we'll call it the IRA now? What is the objectives? So it's to help U.S. households enjoy lower energy bills and more comfortable home, address our climate change, make it easier to access these improvements, to implement these improvements. I mean, we all know improvements are costly. Doing upgrades to our home can be expensive. This can help ease the burden of that. In developing the workforce, back in the recession in 2008, I can say this personally, I've been at the county since 2010. Prior to that, I was in the construction industry as a project manager. I was just getting in, that's when energy efficiency was really starting to get a lot of traction. I had a lot of focus in green building and that type of thing. And then, like everyone other industry, the rug was pulled out from under us at the recession. And the construction workforce has never fully recovered from that. So there's a huge shortage. A lot of tradespeople, people like myself, left the industry. And there's a lot of money put back in here to build that back up again and get highly trained individuals that can join the workforce and be prepared for when this money is available and these projects need to be done. So also spur the durable market demand for energy, for efficiency and electrification. So again, getting off of that natural gas. So this is what it looks like. This is, and if you, I'll have some links in a couple more slides, what these look like on a higher level. It is a maze and confusing. It goes by, the median income and where you fall into that. It's there's a couple different rebates that are going to be available. It's rebate paths. There's rebates of up to $14,000 for installing new qualified electrification projects. So things like heat pumps for HVAC and water heating. improving, making those panel changes, because a lot of times we have to have electrical work to accommodate for some of these projects. So if you make less than 80% of the area median income, and I put the chart that's available for Sonoma County, so you can get an idea of what that median income is and kind of figure for yourself where you fall on that track. The number of people in the household are along the top, and the yellow highlight is the numbers that we're looking at specifically for Sonoma County. So potentially projects can cover up to 100% if you make less than 80% of the median income, 50% for households that make 80 to 150. If you make more than 150, there are still incentives that are going to be available for you. So, I mean, there's a big pot of money. This is a real game changer and super exciting to see. So switching over from, your gas cooking to electric induction stoves, like I mentioned, the panel upgrades, HVAC, water heating, clothes dryers, basic weatherization, big game changer. So here's an example. I was on a webinar with the Department of Energy last week, and they offered this as a ballpark. Of course, the prices that we pay for things here in Sonoma County are not the same as Allenton, Pennsylvania, or Columbia, South Carolina. So if you kind of figure out, this just gives you an idea of what that looks like. And like I said, it's a really confusing matrix, and it will be more understandable as the programs roll out and we're able to take advantage of them. So this takes the first one is for a lower income. The second option is no, they aren't eligible for the lower income rebate level. So if you figure out what the average cost of those improvements are, and then that's your total, the $5,700 in the first example is the total of the project cost. This is going on the modeled energy savings. So 24%, doing that whole house energy audit, taking existing conditions, proposing the new conditions, new improvements, what the energy savings is based on that, the eligible rebate, and the total project cost to that household. So again, this is just to give you an idea of what this is going to look like and the great amount of money that's going to be available. Whether you're income eligible, whether you're not making these improvements, it's going to make it affordable across the board. So what is available now? The tax credits, the Inflation Reduction Act also included a number of tax credits that are available. These are available right now. So this raised up not only, and I'll talk about the solar tax credit, raised it back up to 30%. If anyone had been thinking about solar and watched it, the tax credits were scheduled to decrease over the next few years until they were eliminated. This changed that and brought it back up to 30% total system cost. Also includes storage. Moving forward from this year, even storage as a standalone is eligible for the tax credit. This tax credit resets every year. So if you're thinking about making a project plan, doing it over time, you're able to continually apply for these tax credits as you do your projects. So this is different than it had been in the past. It expired, but there was an energy efficiency tax credit. There was a maximum lifetime amount that you could apply for, and it was pretty low. So this is exciting to see. So not only are you going to be able to save in the future on these rebates, you're also able to recognize this on your taxes as a credit. Of course, it is a credit, so you would have to have liability in order to recognize the financial benefit from it. So like I mentioned, that's non-refundable. So again, available now. So here's those links. Don't bother writing them down. They'll get sent to you when you get a copy of the slides. Whitehouse.gov has a great resource on looking at what's available, what the rebates are going to look like. The Rewiring America calculator allows you to put your income, your household income in, will tell you what's available, what that may or may not look like for you making improvements. And they've also developed a Go Electric guide. So a guide on electrification, you could take a look at that, learn more about it, get ready for this money when it's coming, and get a project plan together. So let's talk a little bit about what's available now. So there's some really, these rebates are great. We're looking at likely 2024, them being implemented what if your heating goes out now? What if, what if you don't meet that area, that income? You want to make your improvements now. Maybe you're looking at being more comfortable. There's a lot of great reasons to get your project started right now. And there's some great incentives to help do that. So the Bay Area Regional Energy Network serves the 9 counties that touch the Bay. So the ones here on the slides. It's paid for through a public goods surcharge. So if you see on your utility bill, you see that little charge that they take for the public purpose. It goes to fund programs like this, and they are directed by the CPUC and implemented by in our area by the Bay Area Regional Energy Network. So what that looks like for us for the Home Plus program. So they also Bay Rent offers programs and incentives for single family, multifamily, commercial. Chris sits on a code implementation, but we're going to talk specifically about single family today. And what that looks like for us is cash rebates. So this is a menu kind of a la carte list that, you're doing some air sealing, insulation, duct sealing. If there's a rebate amount that's attached to each one, you pick and choose which path that you want to take or which improvements that you're installing, and a participating contractor will help you apply for those rebates. So like I mentioned, I think I should have been on this slide, but we register with the Bay Area Home Plus program, find a contractor, select your measures. You do have to use a participating contractor. All of the contractors are vetted, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So they're all trained in building performance. They're vetted through program requirements. And we get the question a lot, why do I have to use a participating contractor? Why can't I do these improvements myself? So this program was actually introduced back in 2011 as the Advanced Home Upgrade Program, or the Home Upgrade Program, by the California Energy Commission. And they thought, as they were developing this program, they thought about all of the reasons, the barriers why people didn't move forward with doing improvements. And one of the big ones that kept on coming up was, how do I find a contractor? How do I find a contract? Not only find a contractor, but find a contractor that I can trust. I can feel good that, that I'm getting told that I need these improvements, and they're actually things that I need to do. I liken it to when I go, because I come from the construction industry, I can speak that language, but for a lot of average homeowners, that's not the language they speak. When I go to a mechanic, I am relying, because I know nothing about my car, I'm relying on the fact that they're going to tell me what I need is what really needs to get done, and I'm getting a fair price for that. So when they were creating this program, they thought about how could they create a component that would build consumer trust and help them get past being able to find a contractor and feeling good about that. So the contractor, they're fully trained on the program. They all their projects are subject to review on paper. All the projects are reviewed on paper. They are also, there's spot quality assurance. As a contractor is newer in the program, all of their projects are reviewed, quality assurance on site. They do virtual Q&A. Sometimes they do spot on-site Q&A, and there's safety testing required. So that safety testing, as long as there's natural gas coming into the home, whether it be cooking, heating, cooling, water heating, they do something called a combustion safety testing, making sure that that gas isn't leaking and there's no health or safety hazard there. So it's a great component to the program, and that's exactly why it's in place. So to find a contractor, the search tool actually changed a little bit. So when you go to bayrenresidential.org and you click find a contractor, it's going to look a little bit different than this. I'll work on getting that updated because they changed the sort. It still works the same way. You're able to sort by county and look geographically where a contractor is located. You can click on it and get in touch with them. So here's just an example. I'm not going to go through each one. I mentioned some of the improvements that you can get rebates for and the amount. So for example, you're replacing your ducts, you can get $800 for that. Building air sealing, there's some money for that. Heating and cooling measures, water heating measures. So as we notice these, I'm going to also talk about next some other rebates that are available if you're Sonoma Clean Power customers. they're all stackable with these Bay Rent rebates. So if you work with the participating contractor here, you can apply for them with Sonoma Clean Power, and we'll talk about the amounts that are available for that. So I'm saying there's some great money out there right now to make improvements. Appliance electrification measures. These are a big game changer. We did, maybe some of you attended, we had an induction cooking expo at Premier Kitchen and Bath, Premier Bath and Kitchen, back in September, introducing induction cooking. We had a chef out and did a kind of an open house thing, hugely successful. A lot of people got information about it. I know Sonoma Clean Power has done some. They have some great demonstration. We'll talk a little bit about the Advanced Energy Center in a sec. And we plan on doing another induction expo, but highly efficient way to cook, get rid of that natural gas. There is some really exciting incentives right now. So this used to be $300 from Bay Rent. It's been bumped up, started last fall at $750. There's an additional $500 if you're a Sonoma Clean Power customer. So, I mean, that's a huge amount. Could in some cases, and people I've talked to has paid for almost their entire cooktop. So depending on which model you get, of course. Heat pumps, clothes dryers. So switching over to a heat pump clothes dryer, there's a great incentive of $300. So these measures in particular do not require a participating contractor. You can just go to an appliance store. You can go buy them outright, take some pictures of before and after, submit for the rebates online as a homeowner. So that's an exciting way to go. There's some bonus rebates available. So maybe you were coupling a building shell. So when I say building shell, I mean things like air sealing, that insulation, that kind of thing. With a heating and cooling measure, you can access an additional $500 kicker rebate. If you're downsizing your heating and cooling or right sizing your system, there's some money for there. And that combustion safety testing that I mentioned, there's an incentive to help defray the cost of that. The program also includes a home energy advisor. It's a free, you can contact them. They can help answer any questions that you have specific to the program, help you find a participating contractor. I put on there, refer you to complementary programs. For Sonoma County specifically, they would refer you back to our office because we do a lot of that here. We connect you with the resources. We have those consultations. So a lot of the referrals you'll get from here would send you back. So I don't know. This is available. I suggest contacting our office. Just because we're local, we have a storefront, we offer the same types of services, but this is also available to you. And maybe you're not in Sonoma County, so or have properties that are outside of Sonoma County also. So I didn't mention, these are available for tenant occupied spaces too, the Bay Rent rebates. So let's talk about the Advanced Energy Center. One of my favorite places, if you haven't been there, it's on 4th Street in Santa Rosa. And it's a great example of technologies that you can implement at home or install at home. They have things you can touch, things you can look at, information you can read, really good lighting, a great meeting space. They do some great workshops there, great demonstration area. It's a great way to learn about some of these technologies. It's new to a lot of us. So it's a great way to see it, kind of touch it, feel it, see what it looks like. You can borrow a small induction burner and some pots and pans to go with it. Borrow that for, I'm not sure how long you can borrow it for. You'll have to check with them. But it's a great way to have experience and try it. And my most impressive thing is watching water boil in like 9 seconds. It's insane how efficient it is. But I encourage you, if you haven't been, stop by. It's a great place to visit. So in addition to that, Sonoma Clean Power introduced some really great rebates this last year, and they're applied for by the homeowner, so you don't have to use a participating contractor. All of these rebates that I'm showing you today are stackable with the Bay Rent rebates. So it takes a little bit of coordination if you wanted to realize both rebates, because you're going to have to start off by working with a participating contractor with Bay Rent and apply for these homeowners. And the contractor will give you all of the paperwork that you're needed. So it's just, like the AHRI certificate, that type of thing. The contractor can help you with that and give you all of that information, give you a copy of the final permit. So like I mentioned, the induction cooktop, there's an additional $500 there, coupled with the $750 from Bayron, where you're up to $1,250. For the heat pumps for water heating, or heating and cooling, the heating and cooling are $3,000. The water heating is $3,100. So some really great rebates. So I don't know if you caught it on Bayron's. There's $1,000 that's available from Bayron. You couple that in, you're looking at $4,000 off a project. So like I mentioned, there's a really great time to getting these improvements installed. Another real game changer here is the 0% loan. So Sonoma Clean Power, if you're a customer, again, you have to be a Sonoma Clean Power customer to recognize these rebates and apply for this financing. And the nice thing is if you haven't switched from Sonoma Clean Power, and I think it's a year, you'll have to check with them directly, you can switch back at any time. So check with them on the details. I am no expert at that. But the 0% loans is exciting. So you can borrow up to $10,000. The terms are 5 years or 10 years. I think anything up to 5,000 is a 5-year term. And then anything from 5,000 to 10,000 is a 10-year term. It's done on bill. There are no fees involved. Your project does have to get approved ahead of time. So don't install and try and submit afterwards. You'd be a customer in good standing. This program in particular, that's an owner occupied program to take advantage of the financing. The rebates, if the tenant is a Sonoma Clean Power customer, the property owner can recognize the rebate. So you can use the rebate for tenant occupied spaces. If that tenant is a customer, they don't get the rebate, the property owner would. So here's the website. You can visit them, find out more information, or contact our office. So I'm just going to go over these really briefly. Solar power and storage. Again, this is next week's webinar. Elliot's going to be presenting. He does a great job. He came from the solar industry. We've had him here for maybe, I probably get it wrong, 8 years, maybe 7 years. But the day that he started, I couldn't wait to get someone who had history, who was starting in the history, had a background in solar. The first day he started, I had a solar consultation lined up for him. So he does a great job. Maybe some of you have done their consultations. He's doing, several a week. So, but he will go over all of this information about solar. What I wanted to talk about was that federal tax credit. Oh my gosh, it's been increased. Well, it hasn't been increased. It's brought back up to the level that it was, and it's going to stay there for a while. So it's applicable to the full contract amount. It includes battery storage. It'll include battery storage on its own if you decide, maybe you live somewhere that's covered with shade or out by the river. There's not a lot of solar opportunities out there. So you want to do storage. Then these, the credits you'll be able to benefit from that. A lot of people, the buzz thing now is that NEM 3. So it was approved, and I'm not going to talk about it today. But next week's webinar, we'll have a lot of detail about it. It was approved in December of last year. And the deadline to submit a complete application under NEM 2 is April 14th. So if you know that what those terms are, so NEM, I'm just going to say, is net energy metering. It's the way that you're paid back for excess production. The deadline is April 14th of this year to get it under that agreement. So again, interested, join next week's webinar and you'll find out more information about that. Another thing that we're going to talk about, not so much is in the way of rebates, but for financing is construction hardening. So as we all know here since 2017, we have to all be, mindful about wildfire safety. We really lucked out this year. We're probably going to get a lot of fuel from all of this rain over this next year or so. So really thinking about creating that defensible space coming up here this spring when we dry out a little bit, looking at doing improvements that can help keep your home more safe from those embers, more wildfire resistant is going to be really important. And these are some of the areas that you can look at making improvements. Another is seismic strengthening. You know, we saw that big earthquake up in Mendocino County that happened, I think was it last month. And it's living in California, living so close to a fault line. It's kind of a matter of when versus, you know, maybe. So always be mindful looking at brace, bolt, and strap. The state has a great website, seismic strengthening, earthquakebracebolt.com. They do a lottery for a grant program. Unfortunately, that period just closed a couple months ago. They usually open it up every year. It previously had been done in the beginning of the year, but they opened it up a little early last year. So I don't know if they're maybe going to open it again for this next year. But what I encourage you to do is go to this earthquakebracebolt.com and you can sign up to get notified when they do open the list again. So it's a great way to help defray some of those costs and learn more about earthquake brace and bolting. So, and if your projects are eligible, you know, if your house really needs to get that done, you can look for it geographically. They talk about different housing stocks and how that works. You can look at our resilience guide. We have pages information on that too. So let's talk a little bit about financing options. Talked a little bit about rebates, how that's, you know, how those take, you know, what's available now, what's coming in the future. How can we finance these projects to help get them done? So one way, credit cards, right? This is not, you know, advisable, super high interest rates. Maybe you play the points game. This will only work and is beneficial if you are diligent about paying off your credit cards every month. I have a friend who has everything on her credit card. They pay it off, everything. They grocery shop, they do everything, pay on their credit cards. And then they travel business class on all of their flights. And so if that's something you do, that's a great way to go. There's a lot of great point systems. People professionally do, they have spreadsheets. And, but if you're, you know, the average person accumulating debt to make improvements on a credit card, not advisable. Go Green financing, I have a slide on this. This is offered by the state of California, a great way to get projects done. Has some great terms. We're going to talk about our program here that we've offered. I mentioned it in the beginning of the webinar, the Sonoma County Energy Independence Program, or SCIPE, and the financing that you can get there. We talked a little bit about Sonoma Clean Power's on-bill. There's also traditional mortgage products, refinancing, energy efficiency mortgages, that kind of thing. Not too advisable now. The interest on mortgages, I don't know if you've been paying attention, it's high, getting high. You know, I think the last time I looked, it could be higher than that. It was like 7.5. So you were not seeing those sub 3% like we did a few years ago. So and you know, the buzzword is that they're going to be rising again. So the Go Green financing, I like this option. This is a great option. The reason why I like this option, it is credit score based. You do need to make energy efficient project. You can't use it for solar, but the amount that you're requesting, 30% of that loan amount can go towards non-energy improvements. So maybe you're making some energy improvements, you're changing out your HVAC, you're putting in some insulation, but you're also remodeling your kitchen. 30% of that loan amount can go to making non-energy related improvements. Again, no solar. So that's what makes this really attractive, because you're able to get more improvements. Some of the things that we didn't talk about today, you're able to bundle it into this loan. And again, it's backed by and introduced by the state of California. Sonoma Clean Power, we talked about their 0% financing. You do need to be a customer of Sonoma Clean Power in good standing. Borrow up to $10,000. It's applicable to certain energy efficiency measures that they rebate. You'll have to talk to them specifically on the list of those that are eligible. But you can't beat 0% financing with no fees. So we have a lot of people that have come in, they access, maybe they're doing bigger projects and they access the $10,000 from the Sonoma Clean Power. They couple that with, you know, cash out of pocket, or maybe they apply for the financing through the Sonoma County Energy Independence Program, which we'll move into. So this is that program that we offer through our office. It's paid back through the county tax bill system. Terms of 10 or 20 years, 6.99% fixed interest, really low fees. We're just under $200, and those are pass-through fees. So title report, we do a valuation that's $12. So it's kind of like the same type of AVM or automated valuation model that banks do when you're looking at doing a refi, just kind of doing comparable, getting a current market value, real simple market value. That's a $12 fee. The title search fee is, I think, $140, and there's a small reporting fee. So less than $200 for fees. There's no income or credit qualifying because it's based on a property. You need to be current on your mortgage, current on your property taxes, over 100 eligible improvements. We can't fund things like appliances, cooktops, washer dryers. It has to be permanent, and it's available to residential, multifamily, agriculture, and commercial. So basically, property owners here in Sonoma County. I mentioned some of this eligibility. You got to be current on your mortgage and property taxes. Your liens can't exceed the market value. So that market value that we run, you can't be underwater. So you can't take the amount that you owe, the amount that you want to borrow cannot exceed that market value. You can't have defaulted on your property taxes within the last 3 years. If you were in bankruptcy, it has to be discharged for greater than a year, and all of the legal owners of the property must sign. So here's some of the eligible improvements. I'm not going to list over 100 improvements, but you can get kind of an idea if it's energy efficient, if it's water conserving, wildfire safety, seismic strengthening, permanent, obviously. It can pretty much qualify for financing. We do have a custom improvement track. So if you don't find it on that 100 improvements, you can submit a request to have it reviewed. If you feel like it's permanent, there's some energy efficiency, some wildfire safety, seismic strengthening benefits, and we can review that. But like I said, there's over 100 pre-approved eligible improvements. Pretty much everything we talked about today, plus some. So where do we start? SonomaCountyEnergy.org/financing. You can contact our office. You could send us an email. Lots of ways to get a hold of us. I mentioned this when I talked a little bit about the division. This is such a great service. Chris leads the Better Buildings consultations. Elliot leads the solar consultations. I can't recommend these enough. They're provided at no cost. It can help you create a project plan, talk to you about improvements that you're thinking about making, help you do a bid analysis. So if we always recommend, just like the CSLB or Contractors License Board, you get 3 bids. We can help you compare those bids apples to apples. Every country you go to 3 different contractors, they're going to quote different system sizes for whatever, whether it be heating and cooling, whether it be solar. And so we can help you kind of compare those apples to apples, connect you with, based on what you're doing specifically with those financing incentives that are available. So what I'm saying is basically you don't have to do this alone. We have a great resource in our office to help you with that. One thing we can't do is we can't refer or caution you away from any contractors. We are the county, we have to be non-biased, but we will always recommend that you get 3 bids. So with that, I will move over to questions.
Well, Dory, there are plenty of questions. So let me get started. The first one is kind of a consistent theme with some of the other questions. So it's if there's a delay in getting the rebate program going, and I'm specifically I think referring to the IRA rebates, will it be retroactive at all for those of us who are doing some upgrades currently?
That we don't know. There has been talk about that. It's not likely because many of the rebates are going to use a participating contractor is what it's looking like right now. There was talk about there having an implementation of being able to walk in, buy equipment. All of those details are going to be released. I think we'll know more as we move through the year before the programs are implemented, but as they're being developed, because the federal government kind of said, here's what the program is going to include, handed that to the state and said, here, let's implement this. So yet to be determined.
So there, I'm going to skip the next question until after I bundle these questions. Lots of questions about the tax credits and whether they can be applied to, first of all, whether they can be applied to uh, projects installed in 2021, or are they limited to the current year? And then type, if there's income limits on the tax credits, like there are in the rebates. And then one more is if you can carry over the tax credit for future years. All that tax credit information is we're not tax advisors. So it's really important to take a look at the IRS's website when you're looking for information on tax credits. And take it away, Dory. I'll let you
I agree, Chris. I'm going to refer people to their tax professionals. The inflation from that it's not retroactive to 2021. So, but again, check with your tax professional to see if you can recognize any of that. If you hadn't taken it before the lifetime, it was implemented back in August. I don't have a link to it on the slides, and let me make myself a note. Energy Star just came out with a real comprehensive page about tax credits, and they introduced it. Let's see. I will include that with the slide. I'll put it on a slide, and that might have some information. But yes, you are correct. We aren't tax professionals here. The provisions and giving tax advice is probably left best to your tax professional.
Oh, I'm going to go back to this question because I think it's a good one. How would I get a whole house energy audit done? Who does them?
What a good question. So there's a couple of different ways. Chris would do them in the past, but now she works for us, so she doesn't do that. We keep her under lock and key. But that same type of certification, so a building performance, the BPI, Building Performance Institute, has a searchable tool. You can look for a whole house energy auditor. There is something called the Home Energy Rating System, HERS. You can go to their the CalCerts website, CalCerts, and you can look for a whole house rater. Those are different ways that you can do that. They are working on getting a lot more contractors trained up on that. I do advise right now that if that's something that you're interested in, I mentioned in the slides that we lost a lot of people over the years in the construction industry. And we're hoping to see a more robust pool of raters and analysts coming into play. Home Energy Score is a great way to go right now. Oh, and I didn't mention that there is an incentive for that too. There's a $200 incentive to getting a home energy score. So that's a great place to start. And we just certified a pool of raters for that just this last fall.
Let me see. We are planning to install a heat pump, HVAC, and water heater this year. Will the tax incentives be available for work done in 2023?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't guarantee you that the IRA money is available. If you're a Sonoma Clean Power customer, great incentives there. Bayron, just start off, just know that ask the question about rebates that are available specific to your project before you do any work. We get calls every day here that did the work and they're looking for these rebates, but that's not the way they work. And unfortunately, people are missing out on some of that money because they're not looking under that rock before they start. So always contact our office. We're a great resource in connecting you with, depending on what you're doing.
There's a question here about how household income is figured for the IRA rebates. And it's basically the area median income for the county is used.
Right. So on the slide, I'm not going to go back to it. You'll get a copy of it. That is the area median income that they're going to go by. So under 80% will be 100%, can be up to 100% of your project costs. Between 80 and 150, it's a lesser amount. And over 150, there's another amount. I think it's $4,000 capped, but everyone is eligible for tax credits. There is no income requirement for tax credits.
There's a question here. We currently have some solar panels, but would like to add more. What rebate or credit programs would be available to us?
Ooh, that's a good question for Elliot to go in detail.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, you can still apply for that 30% tax credit on new installations or additional installations. It's not a one and done type of thing if you're adding to your array. So I hope you're able to join next week. That's a great question to pose to Elliot.
So someone here says we have both our primary residence and a small rental apartment. We want to upgrade both, but are the rebates and incentives available for rental units?
Yes. So bay rent rebates, you can do owner occupied, you can do the rental unit and get those. If that rental unit is on the same parcel, so an ADU or a guest house, it's usually one per parcel. So you'd have to look into that. If it's not on the same parcel, you would still be eligible. With Sonoma Clean Power, it's if the tenant is a Sonoma Clean Power customer, again, we're talking about the same, it's only one per parcel, right? If you're doing a heat pump in the main house and a heat pump in the guest house, it's just one rebate. But if it's maybe you're just doing the guest house, or maybe it's on a different parcel, if your tenant is a Sonoma Clean Power customer, you as the property owner can recognize that rebate.
Here's a good question. I might have missed this, but do these rebates have to meet the new SEER 2? That's Seasonal Energy Efficiency Rating 2 ratings. And I can take a crack at this one, Dory.
That would be great.
The rebate programs like Bayren and Sonoma Clean Power have not updated their efficiency ratings yet. The California Energy Commission has a kind of conversion factor table on their website. If you look at the California Energy Commission blueprint from the last quarter. So there's a clear calculation that you can make to convert. And just so everyone knows, the efficiency ratings for heat pumps and air conditioners are changing. They're just changing the test methodology. So it'll take a little catch up, but basically the efficiency ratings that are listed right now are consistent with what's eligible for the rebates at this time. Do you have county data on how much property values increase with the addition of solar?
No, I know that we don't have that data. Berkeley did a study on that, on solar related specifically to property values. I don't know that it's specific to Sonoma County or if they call out Sonoma County specifically, but it's a great resource on that information. But no, we don't do that type of valuation.
But you can just do a search. There have been plenty of studies done on that subject. So if you do a little Google search, you should be able to come up with some reputable agencies that have done those types of studies. There's a question here. Are your inspectors trained to assess for home hardening projects? And I just want to be clear, we don't really have inspectors in our office. What we do is provide consultations, project planning, in coordination with the property owner. As far as home hardening inspections, that's not a service that we offer. Got anything to follow up on that about Dory?
Nope, you hit that right on the head.
Let's see. On Skype financing, how are the payments paid and when do they start? I have impounds on my mortgage. Will I pay it through my mortgage company or separately?
Okay, so the payment starts, so our cutoff is September 1st of every calendar year to make it onto that billing. So tax bills are calculated and sent out in October. So if your project is completed, you disperse before September, you'll make it onto that calendar year. If you disperse on September 2nd or anytime thereafter, you're on the next calendar year. So You will have to pay capitalized interest. So that's the amount of interest that accrues between the time you disperse to when you actually start getting billed for that. And that's just rolled into the total amount. If you impound, so if you pay the county directly, you'll see it as a line item on your property tax bill. It will still be a line item on your property tax bill, but you pay it directly to the county. If you impound with your mortgage company, when you close out your financing you disperse, you'll get a repayment schedule that outlines the entire term and principal and interest. Give that to your servicer and they can adjust your impound account.
So there are several more, but I'm going to try and wrap this up, in the interest of folks, respecting folks' time, but we can stay on to answer these questions. I'm a low income person. What's the best way to get connected to a guide mentor to help me through the process? Looking at solar and HVAC improvements, I have no AC, and I would recommend contacting our office and set up a consultation. Just reach out and we can try and help direct you to the resource programs that'll work for you. Let's see, so this is a good one. I'm replacing propane heating and cooking and electric resistance water heating with heat pump HVAC and water heating, induction cooking, and solar and storage in a replacement home lost in the glass fire. Am I eligible for the rebates and other incentives?
Oh, so it's entire rebuild. It depends if you're rebuilding as new construction. And Chris, this is up your alley, so I'm going to put it over to you.
Yeah, so there are some new construction programs out there. Really, this is a little tricky question. One thing is a lot of these rebate programs are dependent on your fuel source for like for your space conditioning. If your heating is propane, a lot of the programs are funded by public purpose funds that explicitly are geared towards like gas customers for the utility or electric customers for the utility. So it's a little nuancy. So we'll have to talk about the specifics related to your project. If it's, I'm not clear if your home is totally lost or if it's totally new construction, but I would recommend reaching out and maybe we can talk about your project, in more detail and direct you to resources. Let's see. Somebody asks, is it legal to prohibit solar installations? I think that's, or is it legal for an HOA to prohibit solar installations?
No, that was banned years ago, and I can't remember what year, but the California has a Solar Rights Act. An HOA can dictate the panel type and the orientation, but they cannot bar you. And that is explicit in the Solar Rights Act.
Here's another one on the financing. Can you do a loan for improvements in segments, or is it just one loan to cover all improvements? Can you add to the balance like a HELOC?
Yeah. Well, I think this is what they're asking. Can you do multiple assessments? So you can do multiple assessments. You can't exceed the eligible criteria. So the 10%, you can borrow up to 10% of your property value. So we're looking at the amount that you owe in liens. So HELOCs, mortgages, anything that's a lien on the home, how much you've borrowed so far for an assessment. Let's say you took out an assessment last year for $10,000. You want to do now your roof, and that's going to be another $20,000. So now you're at $30,000. Those amounts added together, plus your current liens, cannot exceed 10%. But you can we've had people that had 5 different assessments on their properties. So because they did projects over time.
Let's see. There were a couple of, one is I live in a small complex. Have you seen programs where the entire complex might get together to do some of these updates?
Yes, in fact, I did presentations for a co-op community in Santa Rosa, for a couple different ones, one in Runner Park, one in Santa Rosa. So we work with them. There's, I mentioned the Bay Area Regional Energy Network's multifamily program. There is, as long as you do a certain percentage, 30% of the units, or I think are making improvements, the incentives are available. So, and the incentives for multifamily are a little greater than the single family rebates. For you would not, if it's less than 4 units, 5 units, you don't qualify for those Home Plus single family bay rent rebates. But we can talk, contact me or our office, and we can talk about multifamily options. So
I'm hoping I didn't miss, let's see, I think I've got all of the questions. If there's something we've missed, don't hesitate to reach out. You have our contact information right here on this slide, and we will be sending these slides out so you won't have to memorize this slide. So great job, Dory. Thanks.
thank you. You too. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Again, there's so much resources and a lot to fit in an hour. I appreciate everyone sticking around to go all through that. If there's something that comes up later, don't hesitate to contact us. Give us a couple days. We'll get the slides out to you. And I hope everyone has a great day.